All right, so this morning we're going to do a story time with Millennial Steam because it's not really a video like a classic rant video. Today's a video about the most exhausting week I've ever had at the corporation that started Monday morning, but it actually started days earlier as I prepared for the week-long retreat for all of the elites at Evil Corp. And so I found myself sitting there in a big empty room by myself, and I got a phone call from the big boss, which is a mutually understood dislike for one another. Absolutely, if one of us could get rid of the other, we would have already done it years ago. So I get that phone call from him. I'm sitting there in a large room looking down at the city from I would say from a perch that very few people get to see. Not a whole lot of people in our society get to go into a place that's this luxurious. After that, um, I guess my partner in crime, the school president, arrived shortly and started helping me put together all of the things that we needed to do in order to make the C-suite comfortable. Once that was done, I sat outside that room for about an hour and a half before I was allowed to leave. Sometimes you need to keep the help around just in case you need more help. So, yesterday afternoon was the end of that saga in which I needed to return to this place where I should have never been in order to pack up everything, put it in my car, and bring it back to my office. I'm the only person in the corporation that does a lot of different things. So I'm not sure where I want to jump to in the timetable for this. I actually my bullet points are everywhere. So the um the most uncomfortable part of yesterday, probably the highlight of my working career, and we were talking one moment that encompasses every awkward moment you've had with a person in a top of the 1%. I was walking up to the conference building, which Mello and I were in last week, and I'm starting to walk in, and suddenly I notice that my boss's boss is among a trio of people. I My immediate thought was there's no way out of this. There's one entrance, we're 10 feet away, and my assistant, who was also coming with me, had met this guy one time for a couple of seconds. He'd waved at him in a hallway, apparently, at some point in his 5 or 6 year career working for Evil Corp. So I couldn't really recognize him. I know all these people by that tiny little circle that has your face in it in the internal chat program that the corporation uses. That's how I know. Mainly, it's millennial steam. I need this. You do that. You do this. You don't talk back. That's all I know about the guy. But of course, I said hello to him. Right, 10 feet away. I said hello to him. He gave me the exact treatment that Mello got at Panda Express from the homeless kid that came up to her and asked if she would buy him food inside of that Panda Express. He looked at me, he turned away, and pretended I wasn't there. And I was fine with that. I was just going to walk past their group and be like, he doesn't know who I am. One of the most important people that works here in his group at one of the lowest levels, according to him, because he doesn't know who I am. And I was just going to just push past their group and be like, well, I said hello. He looked the other way, kept walking towards downtown. And I was just like, that's fine. As a little person, you have to get used to things like this. This is the way that women treat you. This is the way that rich people treat you. This is the way the society sees you. You're a completely invisible proletariat. No one in the C suite cares what you look like or what you do or how much you get paid. Everyone in that conference was a C suite person. I was not. So as I started making my way past them, there was an HR representative, there was a VP of some high level function that was in that group as well. So I just put my head down and said, you know what? Doesn't know who I am. Don't care. So I started walking through the entrance, and I made it maybe one step where when HR, who doesn't know who I am, walked over to him, grabbed him by the shoulders, grabbed both of his shoulders, and turned around and grabbed him, faced me, to face me, and she pointed at me and she said, "That's Millennial Steam." And suddenly he became terribly embarrassed. Because for going on more than 3 years, I've run the office. This guy doesn't care. This guy only calls to uh, give me grief whenever my budget gets out of hand. I spend more money than anyone in that group, hands down. And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I've never met you. I didn't know what you look like." And I'm like, that's fine. I just said, "That's fine." He shook my hand, put his hand on my shoulder, patted my shoulder, and then he went along. In every sense of the word, this could have ended in this way, which is the way that I'd liked for it to have ended. He walks up to me, puts $5 in my hand, and says, "May the Lord help and bless you. Thoughts and prayers, Millennial Steam." And then walked away with his executive people. That's how I expected it for it to end. Same way that when I used to push shopping carts at the Kroger's, that little old ladies would see me out there as a middle-aged man, walk up to me and say, "You need this money more than I do." And they'd wrap it up in a little ball and they'd sneak it to you and say something to the effect, "God bless you." Well, that's how I met my boss's boss for the very first time. Anyhow, as for another person in the C-suite, yesterday morning, 5 a.m., her main computer goes down. She is not one of those people that can understand computers in any conceivable way. She is at the point of tears for hours and hours as my boss, not my boss's boss, but my current boss, was trying to assist her. But if you've met any computer people in your entire life, you'll know that sentiment for them is impossible. They don't feel anything. So when you call one of these people and you're losing your mind because you don't know what's happening and everything in the world that you own is inside that box, you need someone that's understanding. And so I got the call at around 9:15. I wouldn't say it was so much of a call. It was more like a 911 call. And I call her up. I ask her how she's doing. She told me she's freaking out. First thing you do, you calm them down. You get them ready to jump ship to another system. And remember, I am not technical support. But the lines get blurred when it comes to working in technology, right? I'm not a computer repair guy. I'm not an AV guy. I am a manager, property control manager. I would say that would be the best way to describe my job. But I get a new one set up. I get her logged into her old one for as long as it will stay up. I remote into the replacement computer. I remote into her computer. And then we remote into the hot computer that's waiting for her to get set up so I can send it to her. And while all this is going on, she's still full-blown panic. And then, for some reason, she decides to go into a full rant on the person that used to run my office building about how much she disliked her. And this is a person that I said needed to go a long time ago. It's been right around 1 year, almost to the day, that everyone was surprised that she put in her 2 weeks. Everyone on the campus was surprised. And I was like, it's about time. And I said this to enough people so that I get a call from the executives telling me to be quiet. And come to find out a year later, they didn't want her here. And this lady that I was talking to is a very, very powerful person at the very, very, very top. And I told her that I understood, what she was going through. She asked me to call her if I ever needed to talk to someone, which is really strange. The top level, the C-suite isn't exactly the most caring when it comes to the proletariat. Anyhow, we get all of that under control, and I ride up the elevator to yet another disastrous communication. Again, remember, I'm part of the technology group. Feelings sometimes aren't our best our best weapon when it comes to work. In fact, I would say that being cold and callous is kind of the way that every computer person is. We don't go into other career areas because we're open and friendly. We're not marketing or accounting or PR people. We're technology people. We get up to the floor where we were going to be removing all of my equipment, all my equipment that I installed on Monday, and I see some girl. I mean, to me, she looked like she was 21, had a little tattoo on her elbow, and I looked over and there was another girl that looked just like her that was cleaning plates inside of that area. And I look at her and I'm like, why are you touching my stuff? Ooh, and she glares back and she's like, I'm the secretary of the CEO. And I was like, uh-oh. I was like, young lady, stop touching my equipment. And she's just like, instantly felt disrespected. Anyway. And I looked at my coworker and I whispered to him, it's like, there's a girl cleaning plates right there. You couldn't tell them apart. This one's cleaning plates. This one is the secretary of the C-suite. And so I didn't know what to do, and she didn't know what to do. So she obviously doesn't have a good grasp of who works in the corporation, right? So she gets on her phone and she messages some unimportant person at another office that doesn't message her back. Well, I get on my phone and I message a person who matters and I ask, what's she doing here? And they write me back, leave her alone. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good enough for me. So at that point, while we were waiting for the meeting to end that was going on, and she was adamant that we were not allowed near those doors because the C-suite was having a secret meeting in there. And so I got my coworker. I started telling him about the history of the city because he's not around. He's not from that area. And then she walks over to us kind of like nonchalant. She puts out her arms and she's like, hey, we're having a history lesson. And I was like, okay, well, looks like not mad anymore. So we load up my stuff. We grab a couple of sodas off the counter. And we are out like grease lightning. End of story. Strange day. You guys telling me? I of course the details I can't give them to you guys. I couldn't even pronounce that girl's name. I mean, calling her a girl is probably offensive, but anyhow, this is a 10-minute morning video. I've got to get ready to go to the gym, and I will talk to you guys in the 3 o'clock afternoon. Yesterday I burned up all my pre-recorded material based on the fact that I'm off today, tomorrow, and the day after. And that's the way it's going to be. I have no idea what's going to be in the background of this video, guys. So hopefully it's not too bad.